All right, welcome to the Girls Room, where we spotlight the stories women want to hear from the guests you love and admire. In a world where women are often told to speak up just to be heard, this podcast flips the script, creating a space to unwind, celebrate, and tackle the topics that matter most. Think girl talk, but louder, bolder, and unapologetically empowering. Fellas, you're included, but we're in charge because being just a girl has never looked this powerful. This podcast is powered by Lux and Chic Company. I am so excited to intro our special guest. She is somebody who we met at school, which crazy story on how that even happened. But she has been such a light and she's been doing so many beautiful things. And honestly, it's an honor to even have her on the pilot of my first episode of The Girls Room. And just a little bit about The Girls Room. Honestly, the reason I started this podcast is because in this life and in this political climate right now, honestly, being a woman feels honestly freaking exhausting. It's empowering and it's also tiring. Sometimes the thought of being a woman just makes me want to go to sleep. And I wanted to change that narrative. I wanted to provide a place where women can come in and you could be listening in your car when you're taking a shower, getting your hair done, walking down the street to catch the train, that has something where you're getting your answers, you feeling like you're talking to your fellow homegirl, and you just feel heard. And that's really the whole purpose of this conversation, this podcast. And I'm really excited to just have you guys a part of this journey for as long as I have it. So super excited to do this. And I'm excited to in Atlanta. So we're in a studio in Atlanta, Georgia. Super, super excited. It's called Spark Social. So also the founder is from New York. So even better. 10 out of 10, a win is a win, right? So we're going to get into this conversation. Get ready for episode 1. Buckle your seatbelt, get your wine, your protein shake, your tea, whatever you use. And we're going to get started. So allow me to introduce Michaela. So as mentioned before, Michaela is a fellow Georgia State alum and founder of Raw Cove. It's a women's ministry that works to help women build community and their relationship with God through Bible studies. They have a book club. Y'all, they literally have some of the cutest, most demure get-togethers. And you know I love a good event, and it's Christ-centered, so sign me up. I'm really excited. Thank you for being here, Michaela.
Hey.
No, this is going to be a really great conversation.
Yes.
So let's get into today's topic.
Okay.
Balancing ambition and rest. Can we really have it all? So with that being said, the topic right now that I'm noticing the girls are talking about on social media is this time of rest, especially after a certain person whose name shall not be mentioned has now been elected to become our future president of the United States, or current president of the United States. And for a lot of women, it is exhausting, especially specifically Black women. And so on social media, the trend has been these next 4 years are going to be a year of rest. And I'm here for it. Let's rest.
All right.
Everybody, let's go to sleep. Go on your trips, go on your sabbaticals, whatever you need to do. But then there's real life, and there's a lot of life that we balance as women. So is that actually achievable? Can we actually have a balance of working our lives, balancing our lives with our moms, girlfriends, employees, etc., and have a time of rest?
I absolutely do think it's possible. And I think it's not only possible, but it's necessary.
Mm.
And it's actually a command from the Lord that we need to rest. And my thing is, if Jesus can take naps and he's the savior of the world, who am I to think that I can't sit down somewhere?
You know, I've never thought about that because he did
Yeah,
rest.
He did.
It mentions that a lot in the Bible, that like on the seventh day,
He
it was
rested.
rest.
Yes.
Ooh, that's such a good point. And I wonder then, in regards to our relationships with God, then, is not having rest, is it in a way, I want to say it's a sin, but is it against God's word then? If you're just
Yeah.
working and overworking yourself, are we going off the rails of what it means to have a relationship with God?
I do think so in a certain way,
Okay.
because we are taught to honor our bodies, and this is our temple. And if we're not taking care of our temple by resting, then that's kind of like dishonoring what God created. And I do think that even though it may not be like a set command, like you need to sit down and you need to rest, he talks so much in the Bible about resting, about taking that time to make sure everything that you're doing is in moderation. Like he wants us to work hard at the things that he has gave us to like steward, but at the same time, like I said, Jesus took a nap on the boat. Jesus went to his quiet place to
Yeah.
pray. Like he did all these things to just get time for himself and to be with his Father. Because that's another thing. Like if we're not taking time to rest, then when are we spending time with God? If we're going,
Yeah.
then we do neglect our relationship with God. And so that's why I think it's very important for us to just dedicate that time to actually just sitting down, lingering with God. And rest doesn't always look like sleeping or sitting down. It could just be like doing something that's fun for you, finding a new hobby, just something that doesn't require so much brain power. And so I think that's very important to God, because if it wasn't, then on the seventh day, he would have just kept going.
Yeah.
And he didn't.
Yeah.
So we have to model him when it comes to
That
that.
is such a good. I didn't have even thought about it, to be honest with you, because in my head I'm like, okay, yeah, rest. Like I need to take some time to rest. And I guess too, this also question is, what are different ways of rest? Because I mean, of course, when you think rest, you think sleep. Like go to bed, close your eyes, and go to sleep. But what are other acts that you recommend or you do to actually have rest? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so I've been getting into new hobbies
Okay.
recently. I started puzzling. Like my nana, she always loved putting together puzzles, and I never thought that was going to be fun for me.
Yeah.
But it's actually a way for me to use like a different side of my brain. So I'm always like on go. But if I have to just sit down and like place pieces together, it just kind of turns off like the world for me.
Yeah.
So I find rest in doing things like that. And even just the other night, I was just having a tea night with my friend, and we were talking.
Oh, that's cute.
Drinking tea and just listening to like music in the background. And I wasn't asleep. I was sitting down and I was still doing something and being like engaging, but I felt so at rest and like peaceful. So I think just spending time with friends and family, if you have calm friends and family, let me just put that there.
Yeah, and that's a hot take because, I mean, Jamaican, so calm friends and family are... It's like a give or take, depending. You got to seek out the calm people. Yeah.
You do. So if you do have people in your life that kind of help you sustain that peace, like hanging with them or going to the park, being outdoors. Some people find rest in doing like physical activities like walking or some type of low impact like physical activity. You can find rest doing that. I find rest in like journaling, writing out my thoughts, like anything that doesn't require me to just be actively like thinking so hard and like on go and just using all of my muscles. Like I can just pause and do something that like refuels me. To me, I find rest in those things. And spending time with God, because he's the ultimate giver of rest. So meditating on your scripture, meditating in prayer, just sitting with him. Like sometimes I would literally just put on my beats, listen to worship music, and just lay. And that's all I'm doing.
I love
that's
that.
Restful.
You know, it's one thing I feel like can be a struggle that I hear a lot of women talk about is now scheduling out the time for rest, because it all sounds good. And it's like, okay, yes, I'm going to take rest. And sometimes even I will have like a book on the train and I'll try and read. And then like I get a notification on my phone because I gotta do something else. And so that instantly, like I went from like, oh, I'm restful to, oh, I'm up. I got next thing you know, it's 10 o'clock, you crash. So in a way, I guess it's one thing that I'm always, even with myself, trying to figure out is trying to find that time now of implementing that rest. Is it subtle? Is it long form? You know what I mean? I think that's something that can be difficult, but not unachievable. It's definitely, you can definitely get there.
You can. And I think just the same way that I prioritize like scheduling everything else in my life, I'm realizing that rest is not only just as important, but a little bit more important than any other thing I'm doing. Now, I can't speak for people who have children and husbands and all the things. Like I haven't gotten there yet. So
girl, me
that's
either.
a bridge we'll cross when we get there.
We need to have a mom on the show.
Yeah. I will definitely need advice when I get to that stage of life.
Yeah.
But I feel like now, like even during the holiday season, I have been, you know, the TikTok trend when they were like, bus, party, bus.
Yeah,
bus.
another one.
Another one. That was literally me. I was just like, I need to go to concerts. I need to do this holiday party. I need to do all the things. And I'm getting to a point now where like even physically my body is telling me like, girl, you're doing too much. You need to sit down. So I'm having to say no to some things. I have friends that are coming into town and I'm having to say, okay, well, I only have like a 5-day break and 5 friends. Like I can't spend all 5 days with those friends. Like I have to either get them together on one day or I just have to say no. And it's unfortunate, but I really have to take care of myself. So I think just as much as I look at like my work schedule or outside of work or rock hove things, when I put those into alignment, I have to consider rest when I'm looking at that because it's just as important.
There's one thing that you said, and I feel like this is a good lesson. Just say no. Just say no. Say no. Oh my gosh. I know I'm the queen of yes. Like if I can make it make sense. Honestly, even when it doesn't make sense, I have this FOMO thing. Like I'm going to miss out on something if I don't go out or if I don't get invited to. Like, for example, there's this Jamaican designer, Theo Filio. He had an event during Juneteenth. And I mean, I'm glad I went because to me, it was the party of the summer.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like, how the heck am I going to go? I'm tired. I've been going. And summertime is the main time where you're going.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I have FOMO, but I had a great time. So then now it's a domino effect of, well, if you didn't go, you would have missed out. But at the same time, it's okay to say no.
It is.
And this is coming from someone who's an extrovert in all angles. So I know for me, saying no is a little bit more difficult than maybe one who is a little bit more extrovert, introverted, or introverted, where it's like no is their favorite word. No. Everything's going to be no. And I respect that. I want to get to a point where I can say no.
Yeah, so, I do too. Yeah. I'm a people pleaser. Well, I'm a recovering people pleaser.
Okay. We love the recovering people pleasers.
So if somebody invites me to something, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to go. I have to be there. And I was even talking to a friend, and she's the same way. She's like one of the most loyal people I know. So everything you have, she's showing up 110%. But right now, she physically can't. And so she was just feeling so like apologetic about it and just feeling like she's not showing up as her best self. And I'm like, girl, like, give yourself grace because physically you need to take care of yourself. Yeah. We know you're a good friend, but you have to say no to us sometimes when we invite you places. And as I was talking to her, I'm like, Michaela, you need to do the same thing.
Like the light bulb went out.
I was like, ooh, okay. So I do need to take moments where I'm like, you know what? I love you down.
Yeah.
You know I do. And I'm a great friend, but right now I can't be 100% to you or to myself if I'm pouring from an empty cup. Yeah. And I would hear that term all the time. And it wasn't until my cup got super empty and I'm trying to get other cups to fill from that I was just like, yeah, you have to understand that there will be other opportunities for you to have that same amount of fun. I'm the same way. I see an event and I'm like, oh, I have to be there. I have to do this. I'm going to miss out. And then I see people posting stories from that same event, having fun. And I'm like, why didn't I go?
Yeah.
But my body appreciates it so much more the next day because I'm rested and I can show up better for the activities that are actually important for me the next day. So it's not that we don't have fun like at all. It's just kind of like prioritizing like what's super important right now. What do I have the capacity to do? And just being honest with yourself when you don't have the bandwidth.
Yeah.
And communicating that to the people around you.
Yeah. And I feel like our bodies will tell us.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You got to listen to your body. You'll feel it in your head. You're just like, you're sluggish. And if your body is not telling you, then your mind will. God is going to tell you. Something is going to tell you that you need to sit down. So I think that is important to just listen. So if we were to create a checklist, if you will, of first steps to starting to achieve rest, going into the new stages of our lives and this new political climate, what would be the top things that we should add to this list?
I need to write this down too. I think first and foremost, and I'm working on this, but just consulting God first. I heard someone say a long time ago, like, you have to make God the CEO of your life. And I was like, that's kind of cheesy, but I like it.
Yeah.
And now I get it because it's like he has to be the person that you go to say, what is on my list or what is in my life that's taking up so much space that I can't fit into rest or I can't fit you into it. And so just working with him to kind of outline your calendar for Q1, it doesn't even have to be a full year, to outline like your priorities, like listing out everything you do and figuring out like what are the things that I have to do. Like I know I have to go to work because I have rent.
Right. Okay. And rent is waiting at the end of the end or the first of the month. Yeah.
It's always going to be there.
Yeah.
And then I have to serve and be involved in church because that's a part of my commitment to God. I have to do Rock Cove things. Do I have to participate in this extra organization? Maybe not this time. Maybe I can just sit that to the side and do it a little bit later. So just kind of doing that with him is very helpful. And I think just kind of decluttering like your life, like making sure you add time to declutter apps, things off of your social media, especially with this new election cycle and political season and everything. Unfollowing a lot of things.
Yeah.
You may not need to check Shade Room every day. You may need to like.
I mean, don't even get me started. I had to shout out to the Shade Room. We love their coverage of keeping everybody up to date.
Yeah.
But I had to unfollow, sis. I had to get rid of the Shade Room because I was feeling heaviness. So yes, totally agree.
Yeah, because I'm very much like a pop culture girly. I like to know what's going on. So I love those platforms, but I know like I have to just unfollow them. And I check every now and then when I have capacity. But just making sure that you are taking things out of your life that are cluttering your mind. And that can even be just certain random apps that you don't use because looking at your phone could just overwhelm you. So doing that. I also think just like communicating your boundaries to people around you. So if there is a season that you're in where you're like, I don't have the capacity to be here, tell your friends, tell your family, let them know what's going on so that you don't get burnt out and then ghost them. And then it becomes like a huge problem.
Yeah.
So I definitely think even just working with your friends, like one thing I'm doing next week, I'm meeting up with a friend to kind of talk about our 2025. I think just involving her in my plans for 2025 and she's involving me in her plans, like we know what the other person is trying to accomplish. So I know that if she gets into a busy season, I can remember the time we sat down and talked about that season that she was planning for. And so I can't get mad if she's not always available to me.
Right, that's fair.
So just including the close people in your circle and like your planning.
I feel like we should all make it a thing where we all create Google calendars and just share it with your friends. So you can go in and schedule and we can put in the rest time within like, okay, so this day is their rest day. Don't go in and try and interrupt the rest day. But if there's a time where it's like, okay, this is not a rest day, I think we should make that a thing. I think that should be a thing of sharing some calendars. I feel like that sounds like peak adulthood, to be honest with you. Because I remember at Georgia State where it was just like, oh, what's the move? And you just went with the move. But now it's like, all right, I need to, are you available at this day, at this time, on this weekend, a month ahead of time? I'm going to be a month, but maybe like 2 weeks. I think that's something that should be implemented. I feel like that makes things a little bit more easier where, because it also feels awkward consistently being like, no. Then it's like, okay, I'm not inviting you nowhere because you always saying no. You must not want to hang out. You don't like me. You just say that.
Just say it.
So I do feel like that's something that is important. But like you mentioned, alerting and just letting people know, like, what's going on, work with me here so we can have some balance so you don't think I'm trying to disconnect from community as well, which is equally important. And sometimes you find rest within your communities as well. And speaking of that, Rock Cove. Yes. So tell me a little bit about Rock Cove and the things you guys are doing and maybe some of the ways you guys are also implementing rest within your community.
Yeah, so Rock Cove is my baby. I launched Rock Cove February of 2023. And RAW actually stands for Restoring Ambitious Women. And then the cove piece came because when I picture myself talking to God, it's always like on a peaceful cove where it's just like water and just peace. And so I wanted us to have that same feeling when we come together for Bible studies and events. Like I want them to feel like at peace when they come to the cove is what I call it. And so one of the things that we do like as a team, because I was blessed to be able to form a team in the first like year and now growing in year 2, we do have sabbaticals planned. So December is no Bible studies. We just focus on our holiday party. August, selfishly, because it's my birthday month.
Okay. Shout out to August. Okay.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
August, baby.
Yes,
I remember.
We love August.
Yes. So that's like my full sabbatical month that I'm implementing for next year.
Okay.
I know this year we did have like Bible studies in August, but I really want next year to just be like nothing, just peace, rest, give us a time to kind of regroup.
Mm-hmm.
By then, it's already like more than half a year of events and Bible studies and all the things. So let's just all rest, start fresh in September, and keep going. So that's really important to me because I always talk about rest in our Bible studies and just ways of doing like self care and how important it is to take care of yourself. And I have to practice what I preach
Yeah.
because I can't be a rundown founder and leader
Yeah.
talking about you need to rest and
Yeah.
my hair is falling out and my skin is just looking gray and I look
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those are some of the things that we're doing. And next year we just have like events planned to just chill with each other. Still going to do Bible studies, having our book club, which is a way for us to kind of just get our mind off of the world and come together and talk about a book.
Mm-hmm.
And then volunteer opportunities, because I do
Yes.
find that it helps you kind of declutter your mind when you're helping other people who are
Okay.
less fortunate than you, because you're not thinking about your problems because you're trying to help them with theirs.
I never thought about that. You're speaking to me because I definitely could do some volunteering for myself as well. And I think it is nice when you have an act of selflessness.
Absolutely.
And it does bring not only perspective, but it does, in a way, it is cleansing in a way as well to do things for others. And so I love that. Shout out to Rocco.
Thank
Shout
you.
out to Rocco. If you guys don't know, please check them out. They are doing amazing, amazing things. Yeah. Love Rock Cove. I've just been watching from afar and I'm like, oh, I just love what they're doing. I'm so mad I missed the last event that you guys had. That was in Jersey. And I was like, what? I missed out on an opportunity. So please make sure to check them out. If you don't live in the Atlanta area, you can still be a part. Just stay tuned and take a look at what they have going on.
Yeah.
So, okay. So we know that there's that. There's taking time, taking sabbaticals, having your moments of peace, finding your communities. And I think that's the biggest thing too with finding peace, because I think a lot of it, when we talk about rest, we have to think about also the who. And like we mentioned, like having your peaceful family or family members or friends. When you have friendships or people in your lives that aren't also bringing peace into your life, that can also be a huge sign of all of these things are active. Because again, okay, we're talking about rest. Everybody's been talking about they're taking rest. So we got to deep dive into all the things that include rest. And our communities are one of the biggest things. And sometimes without knowing, our spaces can bring a lot of disorganized thoughts and feelings in your mind, in your space. Because can you imagine you're like, listen to Janae Aiko, and you're just like, oh, he's so peaceful. And then here come your homegirl calling you or your homeboy, and they're talking rah-rah, and they're always mad, and they always got tea. And now you get off the phone with them, and you're, totally thrown off. And so I think that's something that's important, especially just thinking about communities that you're building like Rock Cove, where if you are cleaning house with your friendships, where do you go to start to build that back up? And I think that's also a way of peace, if you will, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It definitely is. One of the hardest things I've had to do this year was even kind of separate myself from certain family members. Because I realized like it was interrupting my peace to be around them, and I kept trying because I'm like, that's my blood, I have to be around them.
Right.
But my family actually, and I hope they don't watch this and get mad, but we did family therapy this year.
Okay. But that's good.
Yeah,
Girl,
I never
I would love to get
thought.
my family into some therapy.
Okay, like
I hope
older,
they're listening.
Right. I like to get older Black women to actually go to therapy.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
my
yeah.
grandma, my mom, and my great aunt. And so some of the things we talked about, I realized like my soul is kind of disturbed in certain ways. So like, how can I do life in a way that just, is more suitable to like my needs and everything like that. So just having to have those tough conversations and like setting new boundaries is something that I've had to do with family, and they've had to do as well for their needs. And even just analyzing my friendships, and I'm just looking at friendships that are like, okay, when I'm around you, like, does my nervous system feel calm or do I feel disturbed when I leave? Because I've had those friendships where we'll go out for like tea, just calm and everything. And they're like, girl, let me tell you what happened. This person don't like me. This man done dumped me, da-da-da. And I'm just like, whoa.
Like you could have gave me a warning before you started dumping. Yeah.
And one thing I had a friend do, she would always call and ask me, do I have the bandwidth to listen to her?
Mm-hmm.
And that one question alone just changed the whole trajectory of all of my friendships because I'm like, to have someone care about you enough to just say, like, do you even have the bandwidth to hear what I want to vent about? It's powerful. But I've had to, in certain, places in my life with family or loved ones, just be on D&D, set new boundaries, start to really build those boundaries for myself because at the end of the day, like, I want to be there for everybody, but I also have to be there for myself.
Yeah.
And to just make sure that my cup is full so that y'all are getting the overflow and not what I need in my cup.
Yeah.
So I would say like Rock Cove has helped a lot with that because just talking to new sisters about the boundaries that they've developed and how they rest in their life, like it just helps to hear other people's perspectives on that.
Yeah.
So it's
helpful.
helpful.
That's very helpful. And I think that's something I've noticed, again, trending on social media is finding community. I feel like people are now on a hunt to refresh and restart and build back up the communities. And I think it's okay to acknowledge that there are some friendships. I said this to one of my friends that there's friendships for going out. There's there's business friendships. There's friendships that were for the time and the era. And if they fade, that is okay. That is not a failure to you or the person or saying that you're bad at making friends or connecting with friends. But sometimes you evolve, that person evolves, and you guys no longer connect. Your views, values don't align anymore.
Yeah.
But as you get older, sometimes it's even harder to make friends because it's like we're not in college anymore or high school where there were people, you're constantly around people. Sometimes you just go to work, you go home, you go to sleep, or you do whatever you need to do, or you're around the same communities. I know as a creative in New York, sometimes I find myself in similar spaces with same faces. And so sometimes it can be hard because they have their own friends as well. And so when you go into a place where everybody is in a act of trying to build back up their communities in a great way, and in particular for Rock Cove is women who also want to build communities with women who want to have God first in their life or Christ-centered friendships, and they don't have to feel like they're the only ones maybe even going to church and they don't have their friend that wants to go. And sometimes that can be boring. And sometimes that doesn't even make you want to go. I know I get excited when I know like my homegirl is going to church. I'm like, oh, cool. I'm going to go even more. Anything along those lines. So I think that's important. And it's crazy that realizing rest is really like a tree. There's so many different aspects to what's all connected to the realm of rest.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Community is so important. I've had women come to us saying that they found us just searching on Eventbrite. So I just think even being intentional about wanting community and like looking for it, because you will find yourself on sites like Eventbrite or something like that, just kind of searching like people who have those common interests. And I even recommend like joining small groups at church. Like I'm a part of an amazing small group. And we have just really been doing life together for the last few years.
Oh, I love that.
And it's really cool because I feel like we're all on the same page. It's co-ed, so I get a chance to hear the woman's perspective.
We love to hear from our guys. It's awesome. We love it.
Yeah, so they've become like brothers to me. So yeah, it's definitely important to just have solid community around you. And I know it's definitely tough because, like you said, at Georgia State, all you had to do, or in college in general, just go to organizational event.
Yeah, it was so easy.
Go to Panther Proud, go to whatever, go to the club. Like you could find people here. So now it's like you have to actually take more intentional steps, which can be like a burden to some people.
Yeah.
But I just really want people to like free yourself from that burden and don't be afraid to date communities.
Yeah.
See what works best for you and find your people because they're here for you. They're just waiting on you. So take that step. Yeah.
Let's get into our next segment. We're going to take a little breather, and this segment is called The Girls Want to Know. So we asked our Luxury Chic community about rest, did a couple polls to see how they're feeling. So the results are in. So the first question was, how often do you get rest? And 100% of you all said, not enough.
Oh, no.
Which means that you need to record this or rewind this and listen to this all back again because we need you to get some rest. I'm starting to realize that not enough women rest. And period. I'm even surprised by these poll results that 100% of you guys are saying you don't get enough rest, that even if you do feel like you're getting rest, it's still not enough.
Yeah.
And that's just to show how much we balance as women. And I'm not sure if it's something that is it because we're also goal driven. And I feel like goal driven women can have rest. I truly believe we can have both. It seems like it's a constant battle, if you will, to get that rest. And so seeing the 100%, it's interesting and concerning. You guys, we need to get rest. Definitely need to find ways to get rest, and within our communities, within our mattress, get an updated mattress. It's kind of pricey, but invest in your good mattress, get some good sleep.
And a weighted blanket.
Oh yeah.
Weighted blankets, top tier.
Definitely. And I heard not sponsored, but Bearby, I heard, has a very nice weighted blanket.
Yeah.
I've been hearing a lot of good ratings about it. So definitely a weighted blanket, something plush. I love really great slippers. To me, it's like my different ad of self-care, just walking around with like plush, fuzzy slippers. Like it just makes me want to rest in general and be like, oh, I feel cozy. I could take a nap. Let me just go take a nap. And I think sometimes, and you know what? I was telling my brother this, that even as creatives, because there's that saying of you work until you die, right? Like this, but when you think about it that way, you're doing yourself a disservice as a creative.
Absolutely.
There's no way you're going to even achieve half the things you want to do without sleep. And I think a lot of people feel like they got to eliminate sleep in order to be your most successful self. When honestly,
you need it.
Even studies show you need the rest in order to achieve. Your mind is clear. You can think. You can really multitask and get all the things that you need. So get that rest, ladies.
Please.
Oh my gosh. So the next thing is, do you think it's possible to balance life and rest? And 100% said, of course. Okay, so it's possible. Everybody feels optimistic, and that's a good thing. So I think that is promising of like acknowledging. It's the first step of acknowledging. Yeah, I could get some more rest, right? But then there's is it possible? Now, if it's one thing, if y'all said no, then we're going to be stumped. I won't know what to do. We're all not going to be sure what to do because what are we doing here? We have to go. So it's a good thing that people are open to finding that balance of rest. And I'm hoping that within the new year that we're all seeking out those ways to find that balance and find that rest, because we don't know what's going to happen in this new year. We don't know what life is going to be like. And I think that uncertainty brings a lot of anxiety. And so even if you're a restful person, if you're like, all right, bang, I've achieved rest. Like, you don't got to worry about me. You might need to even get a little bit more rest considering all the things that are going on. Yeah.
It's necessary.
Yeah, it's definitely necessary. So now that we've got that all figured out, let's get into some real talk. And I would like to talk about sabbaticals. Let's get into it. I'm inspired by Imani Ellis, who is the founder of the Creative Collective and also CultureCon. If you've never been to CultureCon, I would say go. It is the best thing. It feels like a creative reunion. I've gone for 2 years, and it's absolutely amazing. But recently, I noticed, and she's done this, I believe, last year as well on her social media, but she did a creative sabbatical to Grenada. It looks like she might have gotten some sponsorship for it too, which is fantastic. But just using a time, it seems like she breaks it down between like a part 1, a part 2. I'm not sure if there's a part 3 or 4, but there's a moment of play, and then there's a moment of total disconnect, rest. So sabbaticals, is that something that we can all achieve for ourselves? Does it have to be a trip to Grenada? How do you feel about sabbaticals?
Sabbaticals are definitely necessary. And I remember growing up in the church, and the pastor, they would always have like a 1-month sabbatical. And I never understood what that was and why. we didn't have the pastor for like a month.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I grew up, and especially being in ministry now, and I'm like, I get it. Like, I
Yeah.
get why just a month, whether they're traveling or just focusing on family or just resetting, like, you need a sabbatical.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish that we can always take trips and go to Grenada and like all the places. I even actually wrote down, which is so funny that we're talking about this. It was just random. I was in a meeting and I wrote down that I want to start taking like a 1 month sabbatical every year.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to do it in a different area, whether it's a different country or just a different city somewhere. And so that's really my goal. And I don't know if 2025 it'll happen, but I want to start that at some point because I just want to stop work. I want to stop everything, just focus on whatever God wants me to focus on in that moment. And it could literally just be nothing, just simply resetting, spending time with family, spending time with friends. And even when I get married and have kids, like I want to incorporate them into the sabbatical as well. And prayerfully have a husband that can incorporate a sabbatical into his life because I do think that we all just need a moment to pause. And so I think a lot of times when we hear the word sabbatical, it sounds so grand, like, oh, I just need to go
Yes.
book a flight and leave for like 3 months. And it's like, no, no, no. Like, you literally can just take a month where you're like, I'm not taking any appointments. I'm not going to take any like meetings, no hangouts or anything. I have a friend who all of December, she was just like, I got one hangout and that's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
I have another friend who, she has the luxury. I understand everybody doesn't have this luxury, but she can take off for a month because she has unlimited PTO. So
Nice.
every December, no work. She just spends time doing what she wants to do. And then, of course, pastors, they go away. Like my pastor does the same thing. I've seen other pastors do it. So I think it's important because they always come back feeling so refreshed and just even looking different.
Yeah.
And then when you realize like this year or the year prior to your sabbatical has just been a lot, like you need that time. And I understand, again, we all don't have the luxury of taking off of work for a month and I'm not even saying your sabbatical has to be a month, but I think just having like that time to pause. Like I know a ministry leader from Saved in the City. She says that every 6 weeks she has a rest week. And that looks different. She may be here, she may be traveling, just whatever. She can create a beach in her home, but that's just a week for her to completely just rest. And I think she has it like in her calendar, which is something I started doing. Now, have I actually fully implemented it? No.
That's okay. Honesty is the best policy.
It's in the calendar.
That's all that matters. Okay.
Yes. So I started doing that, and I was like, maybe I'll start off doing just every 8 weeks instead of the 6 weeks.
Okay.
I also know somebody who said that they take off the day of their birthday. So if your birthday, like mine, is on the 9th, every month on the 9th, that's your day.
Okay.
And she's married with kids, and her whole family knows on that day.
Don't. Okay.
Don't.
Okay.
So I think like whether you take a full month or just a day a month, like however it looks, we all have to have that intentional time to just be, to sit, and because that's when you get like your next direction too, especially as a creative.
Yeah.
Like a lot of creatives, when they go off on these trips or they go into these moments where you don't see them on social media for like some weeks, they always come back with like everything, like a whole new plan launched, because that's time for like God to just download new things into them. So it's important.
That is so true. And you know what? I used to talk about that. I didn't know what the word was. I didn't know if it was sabbatical, but I was telling one of my good friends, Jody, that we should do like some type of cabin or something for like a weekend, go to upstate New York and just reset, invite some of our friends. Hasn't happened on the calendar. But I do see that there's a world where sabbaticals are important.
Yeah.
And even seeing like Imani talking about it, I'm like, why hasn't this been a thing? Like, it honestly should become taboo, actually, if you're not resting. And this idea of just working, no time for rest. Like you mentioned, because that is a time when some of your best things happen when you rest. And with that knowing, it should make you even more want to rest because some of your best ideas come when you're resting. I would say like my sabbatical is whenever I come down to Atlanta, for example, and I'm here with my family for the holidays, or any space that provides you peace. For example, I have homegirls that live in different states. So if I go to visit, like one of my best friends lives in Charlotte. So if I need time, or my other best friend he lives in DC. Another one of my best friends lives in Houston. So
Yeah.
if I'm like, okay, if I need a second, I'll go to their homes and they're always excited to have me over. And I'll just use that time to even sleep, rest, just not be in my particular environment. Because every time I'm home, I'm thinking about the dishes that need to be washed or the decor I want to add to my space or the work that I need to do. And sometimes even being in your own environment kind of prevents you from having that actual sabbatical.
It does.
So I do feel like I think it's important. I think it needs to happen.
Important.
I mean, I think we should all achieve Imani level at one point and have sponsored or not sponsored or even slightly trips, because I think that we all deserve that.
Absolutely.
But I do think it's important to start having sabbaticals and making it a trend. However, it's trending, because I do think, I guess in a way, sometimes it's counterproductive to have a sabbatical and publicize the sabbatical on social media, because it's supposed to be a sabbatical. But maybe after, if you decide to take some photos and say, hey, I want a sabbatical, because I think it's something that should be talked about at most or presented within our brands. Like you mentioned, your brand has a sabbatical.
Yeah.
In December, you have a sabbatical during your birthday month. And I think all of those things are so important to have.
Yeah.
So the real question is, though, that needs answers is, how do we make a trend? Like, how do we make sabbaticals pop? Because it sounds cool and it sounds cutesy and demure, and everybody's gonna be like, yeah, I'm going to sabbatical. But how can you actually go on it? Like, how do you do that? How do we make this exciting?
I don't know. I think just more of us need to do it and actually have these conversations and talk about it. Like, I don't think I've ever heard a podcast that talked about being intentional about your sabbaticals. Like, we hear, oh, you just need to rest, you need to do this, you need to do that. But like, how does that look? And what are the different ways that people are doing it? And then even as women and as creators specifically, like, you know, we hear a lot of the hustle culture talk.
Yeah.
Like 7 days a week. If you're not grinding, you're not doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when I think of grinding, I think of like something being ground down
to nothing.
Like, if you want me to be just salt, just let me know.
Just grind me into nothing, make me powder.
Grind me into nothing.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that. Like, I want to be whole. I want to be okay. And I want to actually enjoy what I'm doing. And so I think the more we have these conversations, the more that we hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
Like, now that we both know that we want to do this.
Yeah, we're going to stay on top of each other. Okay, I'm going to be like, Michaela, on the sabbatical. It's December. It's August. It's our birthday month.
Yes.
We can't, there's no extra work. There needs to be a time of rest. Totally.
Absolutely.
We're definitely going to do that. Yeah.
It's just holding people accountable. And also, I think, like Imani, like her talking about this is so helpful because it shows, like, okay, somebody who's that busy can take time, and you're actually getting paid to take time. If that's not enough motivation.
Listen, man. And like, Imani, you can clear it up if you ever hear this and you're like, oh, I didn't get paid. If you didn't, that's fine too. But either way, I do believe that she was. But regardless, I think she's stellar in everything that she does. That it's like, okay, if you're going to have a sabbatical to like tie in the two.
Yeah.
Because it was definitely featured. And so that I think that play portion of it where it was featured, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
and I think that's amazing. And so, yes, if there's a world for that, both, because who wouldn't love to get off sabbatical and know that you got money in the bank after you went on sabbatical?
That's
Please.
the prayer.
What?
That is the prayer.
That is amazing. That is the best thing that could ever happen.
Yeah.
So,
which shows you just how important it is that brands are like paying people to go on vacation, even if it's a brand trip, like, and they're going to get recognition, and we know all the things that go into it, but like, they're still paying you to have fun. So obviously fun is important, rest is important, vacation is important. Like, even if you can't afford or don't have like a company that's sponsoring you, like, how can you make your home into like your personal oasis? Or how can you go to a friend's house, like you mentioned, and like make that like an oasis for you, even if it's just for a few hours. Like, we have to get creative.
Yeah.
And then going outside. Like, we really can go outside a lot.
Yeah. And it's true. I feel like especially in the winter months, going out is not necessarily, it's like, oh, it's cold. Like, why am I going to go out?
I don't know about today, but
like, it's brick outside. And it's funny, I'm even saying brick in Atlanta. And that's to say it is actually like, it's very cold. So I do feel like those, and I think that's where in the winter, even more important to have your sabbatical, because you don't feel inclined to go having a sabbatical in the summer. You can, but let's say someone's like, you went on vacation. That doesn't feel like, I don't know. Maybe sabbaticals need to be a wintertime cue for
hibernation.
Yeah, exactly.
Animals hibernate. Why don't we hibernate?
You know what? And that's a fact. They go into a cave and they chill out or grow their winter fur and feel cozy. And you know what it is? I think a lot of it too is the country that we live in.
Absolutely.
And the United States is totally different from a lot of different places. Because even when I go back to Jamaica, Jamaica is a place where I remember I was hanging out with my cousin and we went rafting. It was my birthday. And I kept apologizing to him of, I'm so sorry, we're behind time. And he's, no, man, we're all right. Everything is okay. And he's like, oh, we can stop at this place to eat. And I'm here like, everybody come, let's eat because we're on his time. No, man, everything all right. And he's sitting back, mind you, like he's chilling, he's smoking, and he's having himself a time. And he's relaxed. And I was like, and it made me relax. I'm like, okay, I'm in the islands. Like, I'm relaxed. I'm taking my time. Everything is everything. It's gonna happen. So I do feel like this country too makes us hyper. Everything is, everything's going. And then of course, living in New York City for myself or in the New York City area, everything is, when I work in Manhattan, and when I get to the city, my brain is on, get to work quick, walk fast, hop on the 2. I got to get to the 2. I got to transfer. And everything is. And so I do feel like our spaces, and I see why even Imani would go to a place like a Grenada, where your whole environment is screaming peace, that you have no choice but to just relax.
Yeah.
So I do think our environments play a huge part. And there are peaceful places in the United States, but I will say that because we don't have even the idea of like some of the companies now having like unlimited PTO, that wasn't always a thing. Like PTO is accrued and you had to earn your time off. Which is crazy. Like I even remember when I was at Georgia State, I went to Turkey. I studied abroad in Turkey. Oh, cool. And I used to wonder, do you all work? Like, where does the work happen?
Yeah.
And mind you, Istanbul is a very bustling city, but I noticed people will be outside and they'll have their lunch and they're very serious about lunch. They're going to take their time. They're going to eat. And then, meanwhile,
we eat at our desk.
Okay. If that, like, sometimes I used to eat in my car just to have a moment of peace, to separate myself. In the city, I eat at my desk, and mainly because it's warm and I can get more work done if I just multitask and eat, because that's how much I have to do.
Wow.
And so it's all that to say is that our weekends are short. It really just feels like we only have Saturday.
Absolutely.
Sunday, we're thinking about Monday. Friday, we just want to knock out and go to sleep. So, and then you're working on your Friday. So
yeah, the U.S. work schedule is really not set up for us to win.
Not at all.
Like I was in Mexico for a mission trip, and when I tell you these people don't have nearly as much as we do, but they're so chill. Like I was in Cuernavaca, Morelos, and I mean, you know, living in poverty or just not in the best space, but like the nicest, most chill, most like, okay, just go with the flow type of thing. And I'm like, here we have just about everything. Like, I'm not saying that we don't have poverty here, but like people who have like everything at their disposal, just going, always in a rush. And it's like, you don't even have time to like enjoy the things that you have. So I'm like, this system is not, we have to have a biblical mindset and not like a cultural mindset, because our culture tells us to work until you die, and literally you will die doing that. And we don't want to be like that.
No, it's true. I even get where some people, next trend, because you know I'm paying attention to the trends, next trend of retiring at this age, and you want to retire at, and I think a lot of that is coming from this desire to rest. There's a yearning for rest, I'm noticing. And even with that act, it's interesting hearing like, I want to retire by I want to have a certain amount of money to be a millionaire by this, so I can not work and everything is press play. I would love that for me too. I would love to just press play and wake up and look at my bank account, hear the ching and like the Cash App ching, and I'm like, and I'm smiling and I'm like, yeah, okay. What
My
about
bonnet still on?
Yes, like wow, this is great for me. I think I'm just gonna go to the spot because I want to go to the spot.
Why not?
And so I do think that this culture, and like you're mentioning, kind of getting out of what our culture is telling us to do, which is work, go, 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 and then die. And and then what do you gain? What memories do you have aside from looking at your computer? Or if you're handy and that's your job and you're working with your hands. So that all kind of ties back into it and ties back into the importance of, and I think sabbatical, in a way, like you're mentioning, kind of the overarching theme is that it's an act of God to have a sabbatical.
It is.
And have that peace beyond understanding and just being restful and having that and realizing it's more than just saying, I'm gonna go take a nap or I'm gonna just write. And granted, not to discredit those things, because sometimes, honestly, sometimes with the way life is for some people, because let's be honest, sometimes 5 minutes is really, honestly, all they have currently.
Yeah.
And so how do you take the best of those 5? Does 5 minute sabbaticals exist? Don't know. Maybe we can make it a thing. But I do feel like, though, it is important to start to build up to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love how you said it's an act of God. Because I just think about Psalms 23 when he's just like laying beside green pastures, beside still waters. And I'm like, he wants us to be in a space where we feel like we're laying in green pastures beside still waters. Like, to me, that's like ultimate level rest and peace. And if this is something that he took time to have written in the Bible and is imploring in us that he wants us to do so badly, then why are we not? Like, he's not requiring all the things that we do from us.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times when we think about, like, especially religion and Christianity, it's just like, oh, it's just so much. But I just think we just do so much. Like, we choose to do a lot. And God he's not asking for much from us.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
yeah.
That is so great. And we can dive, because I'm starting to realize how much this topic of rest branches out into so many different things that it's even making me want to take a step back and look at all of the things that are causing me not to have rest, even down to financials. Because I think that's the biggest thing for a lot of people is that not even having the funds. It's hard to rest when you don't have the funds. Like, a lot of people do feel like I'll rest when I get some money in my bank account. And I resonate with that. And so even like you're mentioning, like for those who don't even have remotely as close, can still manage to find rest.
Yeah.
And so it leads me to even think in regards to myself of taking a step back and looking at myself of, can I even achieve? And I think that's where that peace beyond understanding of getting to know God, or even taking time to have peace, is that rest is not going to make sense sometimes. Sometimes rest doesn't have to always make sense. We can't calculate rest.
Yeah.
So just like hearing what you're saying, it's just like providing a light bulb. And I'm hoping it's doing the same for listeners, of just like this light bulb of even the act of rest. It doesn't have to be scheduled out sometimes. Sometimes it can literally be, hey, I'm just gonna rest. Of course, granted, God doesn't want us to just do it like you got like a test to or something. I'm just gonna rest. Like, all right, now, like, don't be dumb. Like, come on,
rest with wisdom.
Let's not do that, please. Nobody's saying to go and do that, but rest with wisdom. Like, definitely have space where sometimes it doesn't have to make sense, and just allowing God to be the driver, and us the passenger, and sometimes even the act of giving it to somebody, even down to, I always say this with my event planning company, of the act of giving the load to someone is an act of rest too, because we cannot do it all. We really honestly cannot. I love going to my hairstylist. And I know how to do my hair, but I love going to my hairstylist, because to me, this is me saying, here, take my hair, it's dirty, and clean it for me, and let me just relax and walk out of here. looking gorgeous because I just gave it to somebody.
Yes.
And this is an act of rest in itself.
It is. Delegation is key.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would do any of this without my team.
Yeah.
And I prayed for a team. I'm like, God, I'm not an established women's ministry leader. I don't have like an established women's ministry just yet, but like I really do pray for help. And people, they want to help. Like they're looking for ways to help. And like I've had people ask me like, how can I be a part of it? So even just praying for help in your life, like whatever it is that you do, if you're a struggling mom or whatever, like ask God for help and he will send you those divine connections. And you can even pray and ask him for rest. Like if you're just like, Michaela, like I hear what y'all are saying, but I got 7 kids and 7 husbands. I don't know how to sit down. Ask God.
Yeah.
He will show you.
Yeah.
He will literally give you rest because that's something that he desires for his children. So just ask him.
Yeah.
You'll
Sometimes
receive.
it's as simple as that.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So to close out the podcast, the next segment is a love letter to women. So I'm going to give you the space to vocalize anything that you want to say in regards to this topic of arrest and building community or removing things that are no longer serving us to achieve rest in this new year.
Yeah.
So what would you like to tell our listeners in the girls' room that want to achieve this rest, and what's your love letter to them?
Yeah, I'm going to look you in your eye when I say this. But you deserve rest. You deserve moments of peace. I don't care what you do, how many people you're responsible for. You could be a manager of a company of 100 plus, like whatever it is, you deserve that time to yourself. So I encourage you to just ask God for even creative ways and creative strategy on how to schedule rest in your life, and know that it's not something that is a burden to him. It's not something that should feel like a burden to you, because a lot of times when we're like overly productive, we think that sitting down is such a task and it just feels like a burden. But I want you to release that off of your life and know that it's okay to not be able to show up all the time. Like you don't always have to be at 100%. Sometimes you may be at 20%. Trust God to give you the rest of the 80%. Sometimes you may be at 0%, but just know that there's so much grace for you in that space, and know that people around you, they know you, they love you, they know you show up, they know that you're going to always be there, but they will understand if you just communicate that, hey, at this moment, I don't have the bandwidth. So I just want every woman to know that it is okay to just sit and to just be and to prioritize yourself, whether that looks like taking a day, a month, taking a trip, sitting in your living room, kicking the kids out, whatever you need to do, call a babysitter, whatever it is that you need to do, just make sure that you prioritize yourself. And my prayer is for everyone to just have community, to find community, whether it's here at Rock Cove, which can be found at rockcove.co, or you find another community, a small group within your church, or just a friend, even if it's just one friend, to kind of help you navigate life, to help you find ways to rest, to even help you when it comes to around the house or watching your children or taking something off of your plate, whatever that looks like you deserve help. So my prayer is that every woman finds that, and that during your time of rest, that God just gives you new and creative ideas and gives you that next and just peace of mind. And he just takes all the burdens off of your mind because he wants to. So that is my prayer for all the women and for you and just everyone. Like I just want us to take intentional time to just be.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. My heart is full just listening to all of this. I'm sitting here, I'm like, yeah, like I need it. I need rest. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Michaela, for being on episode 1 of The Girls Room. So honored, so excited. And how can we find you at the Rock Cove, etc.?
Yes, so my personal handle is a dash of Michaela. That's all spelled out. And then Rock Cove, we're just Rock Cove on Instagram and Facebook. And again, our website is rockcove.co. We have a group chat that you can join. We have virtual Bible studies. So I would love to connect with all of you all in that way.
Amazing. Thank you, Michaela.